And breaking news coming in this evening, the CBI has arrested former Air Chief SP Tyagi for his alleged role in the AgustaWestland chopper deal. The former Air Chief was arrested in connection with alleged irregularities in the VVIP chopper scam. The former Air Chief has been repeatedly questioned on the deal with AgustaWestland, in which kickbacks were allegedly paid to Indian officials and politicians to influence the contract for a dozen VVIP helicopters. We have Jugal Rohith, who's with us live from our newsroom this evening. Jugal, what more details can you share with us?
Well, Simi, Air Chief Marshal SP Tyagi was one among the 13 accused named by the CBI as well as the ED in this particular case of the VVIP helicopter scam, which was referred to the CBI by the Defence Ministry in 2013. Now, this, of course, case, as we are aware, has been a long-standing one. As you just said, Air Chief Marshal SP Tyagi had been questioned several times, and this is for the first time that he's actually been arrested. Now, CBI, mind you, has been facing flack for not moving fast enough, but it seems that today there is going to be a slew of arrests which will take place on this particular case. SP Tyagi is already behind bars. We are expecting him to be produced before a magistrate, if not today, then latest by tomorrow, because 24 hours is the timeline in which he has to be produced before a magistrate. We're also given to understand that further arrests are likely. Now, what is, after all, the Air Chief Marshal's role in this particular saga? Just to bring our viewers up to speed, it was actually during the tenure of Air Chief Marshal SP Tyagi that the CBI's case is, and they very firmly believe that conditions were changed which made this helicopter a favorite to win. It was in fact perhaps in a sense fixed so as to ensure that this is the only helicopter which would emerge after the completion of the trial process. Remember, the entire issue had gathered heat somewhere in the middle of this year, around the month of May, after the High Court equivalent in Milan in Italy had given a verdict which actually went against the defence's case, and actually said that there was indeed some corruption which had taken place, bribes had been paid, and that's the reason why the High Court in Milan had put its verdict out, which said that there was obviously something which was wrong in the entire deal. Immediately after that, it led to a huge storm in which the defense minister made a statement in the parliament, and also a slew of action followed. Now, this is for the first time, Simi, that an arrest has taken place in this case, and that too an arrest of somebody as senior as the former Air Chief Marshal. It's an extremely significant state. But Simi, what will have to be seen is the exact remand application that the CBI puts before the court, because this arrest is taking place nearly 3 years plus after the case was registered by the CBI.
Jugal, I also want to ask you, you're saying that the reason why SP Tyagi has been arrested is because the CBI claims that he changed certain terms of purchase. I want to know if these terms were actually changed at the level of the officials or politicians.
Well, Simi, if you are to, go a little deeper into this case, it all started, quite frankly, because there was this certain amount of, familiarity between the middlemen in this case, Guido Haschke and Carlo Gerosa. Both of them are Swiss nationals. They knew some members of the Tyagi family. They, in a sense, came to know about this requirement of the Indian Air Force, and after that, they made certain representatives of the Finmeccanica firm which made these helicopters to come in contact, make presentations and get in touch with Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, who was then the chief of the Indian Air Force. So that's where, if you are to look at really the heart of the matter, then that's where the story starts. When relatives on either sides got to know about just where they were positioned vis-a-vis a chance, an opportunity to earn big bucks, that's when the entire the conspiracy, so to speak, was hatched. After that, of course, in Italy, where the case has progressed much faster as against India, there was a trial court judgment which said that there was no corruption in the case, after which I met Air Chief Marshal Tyagi. We interviewed him and he said that he felt elated that his name was cleared, but he was still hopeful that the CBI and the ED, who had made him an accused, who continued making him an accused, would actually go ahead and also get him out of the case, or get the case would come to the point of acquittal. That unfortunately has not happened. Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, in the meanwhile, continued leading a normal life. He was there to be seen at most of the Indian Air Force's extremely important functions where the Prime Minister, the President would come, and as a former Air Chief Marshal, the Chief of the Indian Air Force, he too would be called in. So he continued enjoying that status even while being an accused of the CBI and ED, and with this particular stroke by the CBI, which has, one must say, been quite
right. Jugal, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Hold that thought. We're also being joined by former CBI Director Joginder Singh, who's with us on the phone line. Mr. Singh, we're being told that SP Tyagi has been arrested for his alleged role in the AgustaWestland chopper deal. Your first reaction?
Well, what is the charge?
We still don't know what the charge is, sir, but what we're being told is that he's been arrested. We're waiting for more details.
Well, I suppose it must be something very, very urgent. Otherwise, it is something which must be something serious. So the fact remains here, he must have done something which is not something ordinary, and it cannot be ordinary thing, because if he has been arrested, he must have done something very, very serious.
Mr. Singh, stay on with us. We're also being joined by Jugal Purohit, our correspondent, who's been tracking this story for us for the last about a year or so. Jugal, do you have any questions for the former CBI director?
Yes, Simi, indeed, I do have. Mr. Singh, the CBI has been looking at this case for more than 3 years now. It has often been criticized for continuing to, carry on its investigations while not making any arrests, while not even inching towards formalization of its charge sheet. We've seen how it has collaborated with different agencies, be it in Italy, in Mauritius, in Singapore, because this scam has had a rather global footprint. Could you please bring us up to speed in terms of the procedures that the CBI uses, because this arrest coming after 3.5 years has taken all of us by a complete surprise?
Well, as I said here, it has to be something serious. CBI doesn't arrest anybody. Otherwise, nobody would arrest it. If I recall correctly, it is something which is something very, very current, for which CBI must have had something urgent, and we will get to know only when something serious had come out, which has led to his arrest. The fact remains here.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Joginder Singh,
yes,
thank you so much. Thank you so much for speaking to India today. We're going to keep coming back to you for more updates. Let's get a word again from Jugal Purohit, our correspondent, who's been tracking this big story for us. Jugal, you spoke about those middlemen who've been named by the CBI. Action has also been taken against them reportedly by Italian courts. There was an interview that we saw earlier this year where one of the middlemen spoke to India today. What is their current location, and are charges going to be framed against them as well?
Simi, all of them, as I said, are accused in the case of the CBI and the ED. But what is extremely interesting to note at this point is just look at the developments that have taken place. The CBI chief, who was in a sense, many people called it a conflict of interest, because the CBI chief, who's just in fact completed his tenure, he was actually somebody who was in the SPG, who had participated in several of these meetings around this particular deal. So there were many who had actually called it a conflict of interest. He is just out of the chair, and immediately you see the action taking place. There is, we are not obviously at this point attributing motives, but it's an extremely important factual, factual chronology that has emerged, that the CBI chief, who was said to have a conflict of interest by many, he was accused of deliberately perhaps going slow on it because long pending. So this is clearly, perhaps too big a coincidence. We do not know at this point. I'm just putting forward a chronology of events. Insofar as answering your question, the accused, along with SP Tyagi, are his brothers, some of who we believe have been arrested. The others, unfortunately, are all residents of Italy and Switzerland, as well as in Mauritius, and that's the reason why the CBI hasn't been able to reach out to them to arrest them. But out there, the other prosecuting agencies in Italy, in Switzerland, they are continuing with their cases. In fact, we are given to understand, Simi, that the CBI and the ED have received a whole lot of material in terms of confessions, in terms of evidences, all of it from their counterparts in Italy and Switzerland, where cases have progressed much faster than they have here in India.
Right, so Jugal, you basically be telling us that former Air Chief SP Tyagi, his cousin Julie Tyagi and lawyer Gautam Khaitan have been arrested by the CBI. They're likely to be produced in court tomorrow. Now, it has been alleged that they influenced the deal in favor of AgustaWestland during SP Tyagi's tenure as IAF chief, a claim that he's denied on several occasions. We're talking about kickbacks here. Worth how much? Jugal, what kind of kickbacks are we talking about? This was a deal that was worth 3,600 crores. The Italian court said that a bribe was paid by the company to clinch the deal. What kind of kickbacks are we talking about?
See, we are talking about roughly about 10% of the entire deal. That's about 350 odd crores, which had been channelized, and a rather novel way of going about. This money was routed back to India, allegedly by the middlemen involved, by the company which had actually won the contract, by fake engineering contracts. They had made fake engineering contracts, or so the CBI believes and alleges, to actually channel or funnel the money back into India through Mauritius and through other routes, where of course tax laws are much more relaxed in terms of what they are vis-a-vis India. So this was the modus operandi which was used by the accused in this particular case to ensure that the kickbacks reach the so-called owners or the so-called masters to whom the bad money belonged. See me?
And Jugal, were any officials from the Defence Ministry also being investigated?
That's a very interesting question, Simi, that you put forward. In fact, to answer your question, the answer is no, and one is surprised still just why. Because in any procurement case, in any case where you buy even the smallest of items in the Defence Ministry, it isn't something which the services can do alone. It isn't something that the services are empowered to carry out all alone. And far less a helicopter like a VVIP helicopter, where you have the SPG, where you have the Home Ministry, the Prime Minister's office. The Air Force is just one of the many components in the picture, in the game, and it's impossible for the Air Force to do it on its own. It's actually the bureaucrats of the Defence Ministry who process these cases, who carry out negotiations, who actually, even ink the contract with the company which wins it. Unfortunately, in this particular case, we've seen till now the Defence Ministry bureaucrats, or the system largely, so to speak, outside the uniformed services has been left untouched. There's very few of them who had been called for questioning. There are very few of them who've of course been named or arrested. So it's an interesting question that you asked, and it throws up an interesting possibility, Simi, at this point, as to a scam taking place, but the main people who are actually involved in any procurement being completely sheltered, completely untouched, and somehow they managed to remain so in this particular case. Remember, when the Defence Minister spoke on the floor of the House in the month of May this year, after the Italian High Court gave its judgment saying that there was in fact corruption in this case, he had listed out a series of irregularities which took place. He listed out how the previous Defence Minister, A.K. Antony, had in fact, okayed irregularity after irregularity, and had wondered as to just how could something like this be processed and even acquired and signed. So clearly, while there is Air Chief Marshal Tyagi, who has now been arrested, while there is some forward movement, but a very big part of the puzzle, which is the Defence Ministry bureaucrats, the Defence Ministry procurement system, which actually does the signing, the negotiations and all of that, has been left completely untouched in this episode. Back to you.
And Jugal, can you also explain to us the role that all these characters played in this scam? Of course, SP Tyagi was the former Air Chief, or the Air Chief at the time this procurement was made. How was Julie Tyagi and Gautam Khaitan, how are they involved in the case?
Well, Simi, as I said, if you go back to the heart of the entire case, it's about relatives of Air Chief Marshal SP Tyagi and their business partners, that is, Carlo Gerosa and Guido Hashke. Both of these Swiss nationals, they were associates for a long time, and it actually so happened that they realized that they actually have access to the high power position of the Air Chief of India. That's when this particular requirement came up. The Air Force was in the process, and all of this is according to the prosecution's theory. The Air Force was in the process of acquiring these helicopters. These middlemen, so-called business associates, brothers and relatives of SP Tyagi, got in touch with their Italian and Swiss counterparts, and then they went to the company, which was one among the many, and got the entire system fixed so as to ensure that the parameters were changed and this helicopter could be brought in with n number of irregularities, with n number of deviations from the laid down procedure. So that in a nutshell is the entire story. Julie Tyagi and all of them are relatives. Carlo Gerosa and Guido Hashke they are the middlemen. Then there are others who are part of the company which had originally which played the part of selling and manufacturing these helicopters. They are the ones who face punishment in the Italian courts because the prosecution there has moved much forward. So the entire issue, Simi, now if you are to see just what the CBI has got in terms of the ground to arrest all of these people today, after 3 years plus of registering a complaint, it will come out when the CBI presents to the special CBI court a remand application or a remand copy, which will actually tell you just why the CBI believes that after so many years of demitting office, after so many years of being a retired civilian, after so many years of being made an accused in this particular case, does the CBI feel the need to arrest SP Tyagi. Remember, arrest is only done in exceptional cases, or so says the former CBI director Joginder Singh. Just why and what prompted the CBI to go ahead and make these arrests 3 years plus into this case will be revealed when the CBI puts forward its remand copy in the special CBI court. We are expecting it to happen perhaps today or latest by tomorrow afternoon. Back to you.
And Jugal, it's not just the CBI case. In July 2014, the Enforcement Directorate had also registered a case under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act against Tyagi and 20 others.
That's right, Simi. In fact, ED is always, or Enforcement Directorate is always comes into the picture when there is a money laundering angle, because its basic act is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So the money which is being laundered is what I was explaining to you are the kickbacks which came back to those to whom it belonged. It came back in terms of fake engineering contracts. It came back in terms of fake offset contracts. It's a highly technical aspect which many of our viewers may find it difficult. But basically, the company which won the contract to supply the Indian Air Force these helicopters had to ensure that it paid back those members who helped it clinch the deal despite several irregularities. The company found ways and means to do it and ensure that the middlemen, Christian Michael, Carlo Gerosa, Guido Hashke, all of them were paid, and so were, according to the CBI, the Tyagi brothers, including the Chief of Air Staff, the then Chief of Air Staff, Air Chief Marshal SP Tyagi.
Jugal, stay on with us. We're also being joined by GD Bakshi, who's with us on the phone line. Thanks so much for speaking to India today. Sir, your first reaction?
You know, it's a very sad day for the Indian Armed Forces that a former chief of the Air Force has had to be arrested. Extremely tragic and extremely sad, and we feel absolutely humiliated as, men in uniform. But the fact of the matter is, the Armed Forces guys are just the fall guys. They are the lowest elements in this food chain of corruption, and the real decision makers are the bureaucrats and the politicians. And the pity is, once again, they have gotten away scot-free. Who takes? Look, you can't tell me make fools out of the military people. We know who takes what decisions. The only decision that the armed forces can take is they are asked to evaluate the equipment and then prioritize this piece of equipment is A1, this is A2, this is A3, etc. And then it is up to the bureaucrats and the politicians, the purchase negotiating committee, etc., all the politicians and bureaucrats who take the key decisions to buy or not buy.
But Major General G.D. Bakshi, are you saying, are you giving a clean chit to SP Tyagi? Are you saying that he's just a fall guy? He's not somebody who's responsible for this scam? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not giving a clean chit. I'm just saying that I think it's a very good lesson learned for all men in uniform. Don't obey orders which are not legal. I think Air Marshal Tyagi's fault was that he was a very obedient soldier and he did what was told to him.
All right,
That's what
G.D.
he's paid for.
All right, thank you so much for speaking to India today. Thanks so much, Jugal, also for explaining to us this entire controversy. A huge development in the AgustaWestland chopper deal. Former Air Chief SP Tyagi, his cousin Julie Tyagi and lawyer Gautam Khaitan have been arrested by the CBI in the VVIP chopper scam. We're going to come back to this story in just a bit. Do stay with us.